Welcome to your weekly airplane news update. This is the week of May 10, 2021. And this week we got 4 topics. And the first one is a crash of a Mirage aircraft in the US. We'll talk about what happened and sadly a bad outcome. We'll talk about a supersonic production facility that is going to be shutting down because they can't find the funding, which is too bad. This actually hits close to home in a way because this is where I used to fly, the airport I used to fly at. We'll talk about a Belarus fighter jet that was used to divert an airplane, and the story is a little bit bizarre, and we'll talk about what happened there. And then lastly, we have the VSS Unity that completed a successful flight at, I would say, pretty high altitude. So let's get to it. First thing this week is coming out of Las Vegas, Nellis Air Force Base. There was a Mirage crash. Now the Mirage is a French aircraft actually. As a kid, funny enough, my dad was in the military, and when I used to go to base, this is what I would see, and this is part of the reason why I love aviation today. Was one of the things that I saw on a regular basis and saw them flying around my house as a kid. But with that being said, this Mirage is used by a subcontracting company. It's called Draken US, and they're Florida based, and they're contracted by Nellis Air Force Base to provide air support. It's called adversaries air support. And this airplane crash, we don't really know yet for sure exactly what happened. It's still under investigation, still pretty new. But the sad news is that the pilot did not survive the crash. So never good to report on these kind of things. The next thing is also a pretty sad thing. This is a startup called Aerion Supersonic, and they're going to shut down. They have this amazing concept of an aircraft that is designed to do what's called boomless cruise. They call it a quiet supersonic flight. And they're designed to go at 1.4 times the speed of sound, and it's too bad because they had $10 billion in pre-sales, but they're basically saying that they need another $11 billion to continue production and continue everything, and they spent several $billion already in getting this thing off the ground. Now, like I said, this is too bad because this is a company that was established in Melbourne in Florida, which is where I did all my flight training, and this is where I lived for several years. So a little bit sad. They mentioned that the current financial environment is not necessarily the best, and I'm sure that there's a lot behind this with the fact that they can't get the funding. So the next thing, this is a really bizarre story coming from Belarus, and this is a Ryanair flight, which is an Irish company and a commercial jet. And the aircraft gets diverted. So commercial flight gets diverted when it's flying over Belarus by a fighter jet. And they're basically saying that there is a bomb threat on board of the aircraft. And turns out that there really wasn't any bomb threat, and it was just kind of an excuse to divert and get the people on the ground so they could get arrested. So they arrested a bunch of people, detained a bunch of people right after the diversion, and then send the aircraft back on their way. So really interesting technique. I don't know how this worked from a diplomatic standpoint, but kind of a really interesting method. The last thing this week is there was a flight, the VSS Unity. The flight, the aircraft flew at 55.45 mile in altitude, 55 mile high, and the idea, this is from Virgin Galactic. We talked about them before, and they're hoping to get this program far enough. You know, the aircraft takes off, carries a supersonic flight, and goes at very high altitude, or even hypersonic. And we've talked about them before. We've shown pictures, but the idea with this is to start carrying passengers eventually at about $200,000 a piece to the edge of space. And from there, they can avoid weather, they can avoid a lot of different things and get much better performance. So I don't think this is the last that we're going to hear about this. They've been going at this for quite a long time, actually, from the concept to making it happen to now this. So this, to me, this amazes me, this kind of technology, which I think is the deep future, if I can call it like that, where things that we may see in 20, 30, maybe 40 years down the road, it's kind of very exciting for the future of travel. And that's it. A little bit short this week. I apologize. I just came back from a long trip. I was in Texas for 3 days for a drone conference. And we've been a little bit rushed to get this out in production and get it out to you guys by Friday. So I apologize if it's a little bit short this week, but if you want to see what I did, head over to our drone channel, and in there you'll see I talk about all the cool new technology that I saw, from ground robots, underwater robots, to flying robots, I guess if you can call them drones, out there. So head over there. As always, leave your comments, your questions, any kind of remarks that you have, and subscribe if you haven't done that. We do this every single week. And then in the meantime, I'll see you next week.